She hired me to stage her apartment for buyers. Now I'm trying to convince her not to sell. The realtor's lockbox was still warm when I found it in the dumpster behind her building at 11:23 p.m. on a Thursday night. The apartment keys were inside, along with a handwritten note that said, "I'm sorry," in shaky letters. I'd left that lockbox on her door 6 hours earlier, and now I was standing in a dark alley holding evidence that something had gone very, very wrong. Her name was Iris Kowalski, and 3 weeks ago she'd hired me to stage her apartment for what she'd called a quick sale, no questions asked. I run a home staging business. 12 years helping people sell properties faster and for more money by making spaces look lived in, but not too personal. Inviting, but not cluttered. It's a good job. Steady work. I'm good at reading spaces and better at reading people, which is why I knew something was wrong with Iris from the moment I met her. She'd contacted me through my website on a Sunday afternoon. Professional email, clear requirements, generous budget. She wanted her one-bedroom apartment in the Pearl District staged within 2 weeks, listed immediately after, sold within a month. The timeline was aggressive but manageable. The red flag was buried in the 4th paragraph. My fiancé handles the finances, but I'm authorized to approve all staging decisions without consulting him. Please send all correspondence only to my email, not the shared account. I almost ignored it. People have weird relationship dynamics around money, but something about the phrasing, authorized to approve, stuck with me. Who talks about their own apartment like they need permission? The apartment was beautiful. Pre-war building, original hardwood floors, crown molding, huge windows overlooking the park. The kind of place that should sell itself. But when I arrived for the initial walkthrough, I understood why she needed staging. The apartment was empty. Not minimalist empty. Stripped empty. No furniture, no art, no curtains, no personal items except a sleeping bag in the bedroom and a single coffee mug in the kitchen sink. Iris answered the door wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, dark hair pulled into a messy bun, no makeup. She was probably 30, maybe younger, with the kind of exhausted eyes that come from not sleeping. "You're exactly on time," she said, checking her phone. "That's good. I appreciate punctuality." I introduced myself, Austin Shepard, owner of Refined Spaces Staging, and she shook my hand with a grip that was too tight, too brief. "Come in. I'll show you around, but there's not much to see." She wasn't wrong. The tour took 3 minutes. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living room. All empty except for that sleeping bag and coffee mug. The walls had darker rectangles where pictures had hung. The kitchen had outlines in the dust where appliances had been. "You're moving?" I asked. "Selling. I need to sell quickly. My fiancé and I are relocating for his job." She walked to the window and looked out at the park. "He already moved. I'm finishing things here." "Where'd the furniture go?" "He took it. To the new place. I'll join him after this sells." She turned back to me, and I saw her hands were shaking. "Can you make this look like someone actually wants to live here? I know it's empty, but the realtor said staging would help." I pulled out my tablet and started taking notes. "Absolutely. That's what I do. When's your listing date?" 2 weeks from today. Open house the day after. Is that enough time?" "It's tight, but yes. I'll need to bring in furniture, art, accessories. Make it feel warm. Lived in, but aspirational." I walked through the space again, mentally cataloging what I'd need. "Can I ask why the rush? Most sellers want to maximize value, and that usually means taking time to—" "I need it sold fast." Her voice was flat. "Money isn't the issue. Speed is." That was the second red flag. In 12 years of staging, I'd learned that people who say money isn't an issue are usually lying, and people who need to sell fast are usually running from something. Divorce, debt, legal trouble. But Iris didn't fit any of those profiles. She seemed scared, not desperate. Over the next 2 weeks, I transformed that empty apartment into a showplace. Mid-century modern furniture that complemented the architecture. Soft textiles that added warmth without overwhelming. Art that suggested the owner had taste, but wasn't too specific about style. I created the illusion of a person who lived there. Books on the coffee table, a throw blanket casually draped over the sofa, fresh flowers in the kitchen, but no actual personality. That's the trick with staging. Make people imagine their life there, not see someone else's. If you are enjoying this story already, please subscribe to see more stories like this. Iris came by every day while I worked. She'd let herself in quietly, watch me arrange furniture or hang art, and then leave without much conversation. But I noticed things, the way she'd flinch when her phone buzzed, the way she'd position herself near the door, like she might need to run, the way she never ever answered calls while I was there, just let them ring and ring and ring. On day 8, I was hanging a mirror in the bedroom when she arrived earlier than usual. She looked worse than normal. Pale, dark circles, hair uncombed. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course. Do you ever stage places that aren't for sale? Like, if someone just wanted their home to look better, would you do that?" It was an odd question. "Sure. I do consultations, decorating." "Why?" She sat on the staged bed, then seemed to realize that wasn't allowed and stood up quickly. "Never mind. Stupid question. Iris." I set down the mirror. "Are you okay? You seem— I don't know how to say this without overstepping, but you seem scared." "I'm fine. Just stressed about the move. It's a big change." She smiled, and it was the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "The apartment looks amazing. You're really talented. Thank you, but I should go. My fiancée is calling. Her phone wasn't ringing. I'll see you tomorrow. She left, and I stood there feeling like I'd missed something important. That night, I Googled her. Found her LinkedIn, graphic designer, freelance, good portfolio. Found her Instagram, private account. Found a wedding registry at Bloomingdale's under Iris Kowalski and Jeffrey Carver, wedding date 6 months away. I Googled Jeffrey Carver, real estate investor, according to his LinkedIn. Multiple properties in 3 states. Net worth estimated in the millions, according to a business profile from 2 years ago. Photos showed a guy in his late 40s, silver hair, expensive suits, Hollywood smile. He looked like someone who ate kale salads and had a personal trainer and definitely had a lawyer on retainer. The age gap bothered me. The wealth gap bothered me more. But people date who they date, and it wasn't my business. I closed my laptop and tried to focus on work. The apartment was finished on day 13. I did a final walkthrough, adjusting pillows and straightening art, making everything perfect. The realtor was coming tomorrow for photos, and the listing would go live that evening. Open house on Saturday. Iris's timeline would be met. She arrived at 6 p.m. to see the finished product. I'd timed the lighting perfectly. Golden hour sun streaming through the windows, everything glowing. What do you think? I asked. She walked through slowly, touching the furniture, looking at the art. When she reached the bedroom, she stopped. I'd staged it as a peaceful retreat. White linens, soft gray accents, a small desk by the window with a vintage typewriter and a stack of books. This is how I wanted it to look, she said quietly. When I first moved in, I had plans. I was going to paint the walls this color, get a desk like this, actually use the space. What stopped you? I met Jeffrey. She touched the typewriter keys. He had better ideas, grander plans. This place was supposed to be temporary. But you've been here 5 years according to the listing information? She looked at me sharply. How do you know that? Property records. I always check when I'm staging. Helps me understand the space. Right. Of course. She walked back to the living room. It looks perfect. Thank you. Send me the final invoice and I'll have payment sent immediately. You could keep it this way, I said. If you wanted, cancel the sale. Actually live here like this. I can't. Why not? Because it's already decided. She headed for the door. Thanks again, Austin. You made this place look like somewhere worth living. After she left, I packed up my supplies and prepared to move the rental furniture back to storage after the open house. But something was nagging at me. The way she'd said, it's already decided. The way she'd looked at that staged bedroom like it was a future she'd never have. I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I called the realtor, a woman named Catherine Moss, who'd been selling properties in the Pearl District for 19 years. Catherine, hi. It's Austin Shepard. I just finished staging the Kowalski apartment. Austin, perfect timing. I'm doing photos tomorrow morning. You'll be there to make sure everything looks good? Of course. Quick question. Do you know the owners well? Iris and Jeffrey? I've never met Iris. All my communication has been with Jeffrey. He's the one who hired me, set the price, arranged everything. Why? My stomach dropped. Iris told me she was handling the sale. No, definitely Jeffrey's deal. He said his fiancée was too busy with work to handle it. He's been very specific about the timeline, the price point, everything. Wants it sold fast. Catherine paused. Is there a problem? I don't know. Maybe. Can I ask what Jeffrey's like to work with? Demanding. Calls twice a day for updates. Wants everything done his way. But he's paying my commission. So I'm not complaining. Why are you asking? Just trying to understand the situation. Thanks, Catherine. I hung up and sat in my car outside Iris's building for 20 minutes, trying to decide if I was overreacting. Maybe Jeffrey was just handling the logistics while Iris focused on her work. Maybe their arrangement was perfectly normal, and I was projecting problems that didn't exist, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, I arrived at the apartment at 8 a.m. for the photo shoot. Catherine was already there with her photographer, a guy named David Lee, who'd been shooting real estate for 15 years. I did a quick check of the staging, adjusted a few pillows, made sure everything was photo-ready. Catherine's phone rang. She answered, and I watched her expression change from professional friendliness to confusion to alarm. What do you mean she's refusing? Jeffrey, I have a photographer here right now. We need to shoot today to make your timeline. I understand, but yes, I'll handle it. She hung up and looked at me. Change of plans. Iris apparently decided she doesn't want photos taken today. Jeffrey's trying to convince her, but she's locked herself in and won't answer the door. She's inside right now? I asked. According to Jeffrey, yes. He's on his way over to sort it out. Catherine made air quotes. This is why I hate working with couples. Someone always changes their mind at the last minute. David the photographer started packing his equipment. Want me to come back tomorrow? I'll let you know. This is ridiculous. I walked to the apartment door and knocked. Iris? It's Austin. Are you okay? No answer. I tried the handle. Locked. I knocked again. Harder. Iris? If you don't want photos today, that's fine. It's your apartment. But I need to know you're okay. The door opened a crack. Iris peered out, and I could see she'd been crying. I'm fine. I just need more time. Tell them to come back next week. Jeffrey said you're refusing the photos altogether. I didn't say that. I said not today. But he never listens to what I actually say. She started to close the door. I put my hand on it gently. Iris, talk to me. What's going on? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. She opened the door wider, and I saw the apartment was different. The staged bedroom had been destroyed, furniture pushed aside, the carefully arranged books thrown on the floor, the typewriter smashed. He came by last night, saw how you'd staged it, said it looked too much like I was trying to stay, said I was getting attached to a place I'm leaving anyway, said I was being sentimental and stupid. My hands clenched. Jeffrey did this? He was angry. He's been under a lot of stress with the move and the new property, and I wasn't being supportive enough about the sale. She was defending him, and that made it worse. I should have been more understanding. Iris, this isn't okay. He destroyed property. It's his property. He owns the building. I just live here. She wiped her eyes. Can you fix the bedroom? Before the photos? I'll pay extra. He owns the building? He owns 12 buildings in this neighborhood. Didn't you know? This whole thing, the sale, it's because he wants to tear down the building and develop the land. But there's one other tenant who won't leave. And if I sell, it helps his case for eviction. It's all very complicated, and I don't really understand the details. I understood the details perfectly. Jeffrey was using Iris's apartment sale to establish precedent for clearing the building. The tenant who wouldn't leave probably had rent control or a long-term lease. If Iris sold, it showed the building wasn't desirable, helped Jeffrey's legal argument for redevelopment, and Iris had no idea she was a pawn in her fiancé's real estate scheme. Iris, listen to me very carefully. You don't have to sell. If Jeffrey owns the building, he can't force you to sell your unit. This is your home. It's complicated. How is it complicated? She looked at the floor. Because he paid for it. When we got engaged, he bought it as a gift. Said it would be my space until we moved into his place. But it's in my name. The deed. Everything. He transferred it to me as an engagement present. So technically, legally, it's mine. But morally, she trailed off. Morally, a gift is a gift. It's yours. You're not obligated to sell it to help him tear down his own building. You don't understand. He's been so good to me. He helped me when I had nothing. Gave me a place to live, supported my career, made me feel safe. I owe him everything. If selling this apartment helps him, then I should do it. That's what partners do. Before I could respond, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Jeffrey Carver appeared, looking exactly like his photos, but older in person, more angular. He saw me standing in the doorway with Iris, and his expression hardened. Who the hell are you? Austin Shepard. I staged the apartment. Well, your job is done. You can leave. He pushed past me into the apartment. Iris, what's this nonsense about postponing photos? Catherine says you locked yourself in here and refused to let them shoot. I just needed more time. The apartment wasn't ready. Austin had to fix some things. Jeffrey looked around and saw the destroyed bedroom. Christ, you made this mess. What were you thinking? You did that, I said. Last night, according to Iris. He turned on me. I said you can leave. This is a private conversation. I'm not leaving until I know Iris is okay. She's fine. She's my fiancée, and this is between us. Get out before I call security. I looked at Iris. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Iris, do you want me to leave? Yes, she whispered. Thank you for everything, Austin. Send me the invoice for fixing the bedroom. I left, but I didn't go far. I sat in my car in the parking lot and waited. 15 minutes later, Catherine and David left together, looking frustrated. 20 minutes after that, Jeffrey emerged, got into a black Mercedes SUV, and drove away. I went back upstairs and knocked. Iris answered immediately. Her left cheek was red like she'd been slapped. I'd been a home stager for 12 years. I'd seen domestic situations before. I knew what I was looking at. Let me in, I said. Austin, I told you. Let me in, or I'm calling the police right now. She stepped aside. I entered and closed the door behind me. Did he hit you? It wasn't like that. We were arguing, and I said something stupid, and he got frustrated, and it was barely anything. I bruise easily. Iris, listen to me. This is abuse. The controlling behavior, isolating you, destroying your property, hitting you. This is textbook domestic abuse, and it's going to get worse. You don't know him. He's just stressed. The development deal is complicated, and I haven't been supportive enough, and stop defending him. I pulled out my phone. I'm going to give you a number. It's for a domestic violence hotline. They have counselors who can... I'm not being abused. You're overreacting. Jeffrey loves me. He just has a temper sometimes, and I know how to manage it. If I just do what he asks, if I sell the apartment and stop being difficult, everything will be fine. I looked at this woman, brilliant and talented and scared, and I wanted to shake her, but that wouldn't help. Instead, I said, okay, let's say you're right. Let's say selling the apartment will make everything fine. Answer one question. After you sell, where will you live? With Jeffrey, at his estate in Greenwich. Have you been there? She hesitated. Not yet. He's been renovating. It's not ready for guests. How long have you been engaged? 2 years. And in 2 years, he's never taken you to see where you'll be living? I pulled up my phone and searched for Jeffrey's Greenwich property. Found it immediately. A $10 million estate, featured in Architectural Digest 18 months ago. Fully renovated. Already occupied. Iris, look at this. I showed her the article. Her face went pale. He said it wasn't done. It's been done for over a year. He's living there now. Has been for months, according to property records. I scrolled through the article. There's no mention of him having a fiancée. No wedding registry items visible. No indication he's planning to have anyone move in. She sat down on the staged sofa, and I watched her process the information. He said he was protecting me, that if people knew about us, they'd target me because of his money, that keeping our relationship private was safer. Iris, I think Jeffrey never intended to marry you. I think he gave you this apartment to keep you close while he needed you, and now he's selling it because he needs it gone for his development deal. And after it sells, he's going to end the engagement, and you'll have nothing. No, that's not. We're getting married in 6 months. The registry, the venue, everything's planned. Show me. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, opened her email, scrolled through, opened her calendar. The wedding date was there, but no details. No venue confirmed, no caterer, no photographer. Just wedding day marked on the calendar. Where's the venue? I asked gently. Jeffrey's handling it. He said he wanted to surprise me. He has the event planner working on everything. What's the planner's name? He never said. He said it was part of the surprise. I felt sick. Iris, there is no wedding. There's no event planner. Jeffrey gave you an apartment, kept you isolated, and now he's taking it back and cutting you loose. She stood up abruptly. You need to leave. You don't know anything about my relationship. Jeffrey loves me. He's going to marry me. We're going to be happy. You're just some stranger who stages apartments. You don't get to come in here and tell me my life is a lie. Okay. I held up my hands. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm overstepping. But please, just promise me one thing. Before you sign any final paperwork on the sale, talk to a lawyer. Not Jeffrey's lawyer. Your own lawyer. Have them review everything. Make sure you understand what you're signing. Fine. Whatever. Just go. I left her my business card with my personal cell written on the back. If you need anything, and I mean anything, call me. Day or night. She took the card without looking at it. I left feeling like I'd made everything worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Iris alone in that apartment, about Jeffrey controlling every aspect of her life, about what would happen after the sale went through. At 2 a.m., I got up and started researching. If this story keeps your interest, please subscribe to get more stories like this. Jeffrey Carver had a pattern. Over the past 10 years, he'd been engaged 4 times. Each engagement lasted approximately 2 years. Each fiancé had been given property as an engagement gift. Each property had been sold within months of the engagement ending. I found articles, social media posts, legal filings. The pattern was clear and deliberate. One of the ex-fiancés, a woman named Diane Thornton, had filed a lawsuit claiming Jeffrey had coerced her into selling property he'd gifted her, then kept the proceeds. The case had been settled out of court with a non-disclosure agreement, but the initial filing was public record. The details matched Iris's situation exactly. I tried to call Iris the next morning. She didn't answer. I called Catherine, the realtor. Is the open house still happening today? Yes. Jeffrey confirmed this morning. Photos are being shot right now. We're listing at 3 p.m. Open house tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. Is Iris okay with this? I'm working with Jeffrey. He's the point of contact. Catherine's voice was professional but cold. Austin, I appreciate your staging work, but my client has requested that you not be present at the open house tomorrow. He feels you've been inappropriate with his fiancée. Catherine, I think Iris is in danger. Jeffrey has a history of... I'm going to stop you right there. Whatever personal drama is happening with the owners is not my concern. My job is to sell the property. Please respect Jeffrey's wishes and stay away from the apartment. She hung up. I sat there feeling helpless and furious. Then I did what I should have done from the beginning. I called the police. The officer who answered was bored and dismissive. I explained the situation. Domestic abuse, coercion, property fraud. He sighed. Sir, has this woman actually asked for help? Has she filed a complaint? No, but then there's nothing we can do. If she's being abused, she needs to come forward herself. We can't intervene in domestic situations without a complaint from the victim. Tell her to call us if she needs help. I hung up and immediately called the domestic violence hotline I'd tried to give Iris. The counselor who answered was named Patricia Reeves, and she'd been working crisis intervention for 23 years. I explained everything. You're right to be concerned, Patricia said. This follows a classic pattern of coercive control and financial abuse. But you're also right that you can't force her to accept help. She has to recognize the situation herself and make the choice to leave. What you can do is make sure she knows help is available. Give her resources. Make sure she has a way to contact people who can help. And if you witness actual violence or immediate danger, call 911. But beyond that, you can't rescue her. She has to save herself. What if she doesn't? What if she sells the apartment and he disappears and she's left with nothing? Then she'll have learned a hard lesson. And maybe that will be what finally makes her seek help. Sometimes people have to hit bottom before they're ready to climb back up. After I hung up, I felt worse than before. I'd done everything I could think of, and it wasn't enough. Iris was going to lose everything and I couldn't stop it. The open house was the next day. I didn't go, but I tortured myself by checking the real estate listing every hour. 30 groups toured the apartment. 3 offers came in by 5 p.m., all above asking price. Jeffrey accepted the highest offer, $892,000. Cash, 30-day close. I found out because Catherine called me Sunday morning. I need you to remove the staging furniture by Wednesday. The buyers want to do a final walkthrough on Thursday, and they've requested the place be empty. Can you handle that? Where's Iris? I have no idea. Jeffrey's been handling everything. Are you available Wednesday or not? I'm available. Wednesday morning, I arrived at the apartment with my crew. Jeffrey's Mercedes was in the parking lot, but he wasn't in the apartment. Iris was. She was sitting on the stage sofa, still in her pajamas, staring at the wall. The apartment hadn't been touched since the open house. Even the damaged bedroom was still destroyed. Iris, I said quietly, we're here to remove the furniture. Did Jeffrey tell you? She looked at me like she didn't recognize me for a moment. Then her eyes focused. Austin, right. The staging. You need to take it back. Are you okay? Have you eaten? You look... I'm fine. I've just been thinking. She stood up, and I saw she'd lost weight in the 3 weeks since I'd first met her. Her clothes hung loose. I called that lawyer, the one you suggested I talk to before signing anything. Hope flickered. And she reviewed the deed, the sales contract, everything. She said it's all legal. The apartment is mine. The sale is legitimate. I'm free to sell it or keep it. My choice. Iris walked to the window and looked out at the park. So I made a choice. What choice? I canceled the sale this morning. Told the buyers I'd changed my mind. Paid the penalty fee from my savings. Told Jeffrey the engagement is off. I felt like I'd been punched with relief. Iris, that's incredible. That took so much courage. Jeffrey didn't think so. He came by an hour ago. Said I was making the biggest mistake of my life. That I'd be sorry. That I was throwing away our future for nothing. She turned to face me, and for the first time since I'd met her, her eyes weren't scared. They were angry. You know what I realized? We never had a future. He never intended to marry me. I was just useful until I wasn't. I'm so sorry. Don't be. You tried to tell me. I didn't want to hear it. She walked through the apartment, touching the staged furniture. I want to buy all of this. The furniture, the art, everything. Whatever it costs. I want to actually live here the way you made it look. Like someone who has a life worth living. Iris, the staging furniture is rentals. I don't own it. But I can help you find pieces like these. Or we can... Then help me do that. Please. I'm going to stay in this apartment. I'm going to paint the walls the colors I want. I'm going to get a desk and write. I'm going to stop letting other people tell me what my life should look like. She pulled out her checkbook. How much do I owe you for the staging work? And how much would you charge to actually decorate this place? Not stage it for sale. Decorate it for living. We spent that afternoon removing the staging furniture and making plans for what would replace it. Iris had ideas. Specific, passionate ideas about how she wanted her space to look. Colors she loved. Art styles that spoke to her. She'd been silent for so long that now words spilled out. I was loading the last of the furniture into my truck when Jeffrey appeared. He walked straight to Iris, ignoring me completely. I've spoken to my lawyer. The penalty fee for breaking the sales contract? I'm not paying it. That's your responsibility. You made the decision, you pay the consequences. I already paid it, Iris said calmly. From my account. The one I opened yesterday without your name on it. His face darkened. You're being irrational. This apartment is worthless to you. You don't need it. I need it for the development. Be reasonable. No. Excuse me? No. I'm not selling. I'm not leaving. I'm not being reasonable by your definition, which apparently means doing whatever you want regardless of what I want. She crossed her arms. The apartment is mine. The decision is mine. And my answer is no. Jeffrey's voice dropped to something dangerous. You ungrateful little. Do you have any idea what I've done for you? Where you'd be without me? You were nobody when I met you. Living in a studio apartment, scraping by on freelance work, going nowhere. I gave you everything. You gave me a cage and told me it was freedom. I'm done being grateful for that. He moved toward her, and I stepped between them. I think you should leave now. Jeffrey finally acknowledged my existence. You did this. Poisoned her against me with your self-righteous... I showed her the truth. If that poisoned her against you, the problem isn't me. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. You're trespassing. Both of you. Actually, Iris said, I'm the owner of this apartment, and Austin is here at my invitation. You're the one who should leave. Jeffrey's face went through several expressions. Rage, disbelief, calculation. Finally, he settled on cold contempt. Fine. Keep the apartment. Keep your little fantasy of independence. But understand something. I own this building. I own 11 others in this neighborhood. I have lawyers, connections, resources you can't imagine. I will make your life here a living hell. Rent increases. Building renovations at 3 a.m. Inspections every week. I will drive you out. Then I'll fight you. And I'll win. Because I have something you don't. I don't care about winning. I care about staying. He left. I waited until his car was gone before speaking. Iris, he's serious. If he owns the building, he can make things very difficult. I know. But if I leave because he threatens me, I'll never stop running. This is my home. I'm staying. Over the next 3 weeks, Jeffrey did exactly what he'd threatened. Building-wide emergency repairs that required access to Iris's apartment on 2 hours' notice, fire inspections, plumbing inspections, noise complaints filed against her for normal living sounds, Rent increase notices that were technically legal, but clearly retaliatory. Iris documented everything, photographed every notice, recorded every interaction with Jeffrey or his building manager. She contacted a tenant rights organization, and they connected her with a lawyer named Susan Torres, who'd been practicing housing law for 16 years. Susan reviewed the documentation and smiled. This is retaliation, textbook landlord harassment. We can file a complaint with the housing authority and potentially a lawsuit for damages. But I have to warn you, these cases take time and money. Jeffrey has both. Are you prepared for a long fight? Yes, Iris said without hesitation. I'd been there for the meeting because Iris had asked me to come. We'd become friends over the weeks of decorating her apartment. Real decorating, not staging. She'd told me about her childhood, her parents who'd died in a car accident when she was 23, her loneliness that had made Jeffrey's attention feel like salvation. I'd told her about my divorce 7 years ago, my teenage daughter who lived with her mother in Seattle, my own history of choosing work over relationships until there were no relationships left. We understood each other in that specific way people do when they've both rebuilt themselves from wreckage. Susan filed the complaint in November. The housing authority launched an investigation. Jeffrey's harassment intensified. Now he was claiming Iris had violated building rules by having guests overnight without permission. The rule didn't exist, but he'd added it to the lease renewal he sent her, which she refused to sign. He's trying to evict me for not signing a new lease, Iris told me over coffee one afternoon. We were at her apartment, which now looked nothing like the staged version and everything like Iris, full of color and plants and books and light. Susan says he can't do that because I have month-to-month tenancy, but he's going to court anyway. How are you holding up? Honestly? Better than I ever was with him. Fighting feels healthier than obeying. She smiled. I know that sounds weird. It sounds like you found your spine. The court date was set for January. Susan was confident but realistic. The judge will see through Jeffrey's tactics, but that doesn't mean this ends. He'll appeal, file more complaints, look for other ways to force you out. This could go on for years. Then it goes on for years, Iris said. I'd attended every court hearing, every meeting with Susan, every confrontation with Jeffrey's lawyers. Somewhere along the way, my role had shifted from home stager who'd accidentally gotten involved to something more. I couldn't quite name what it was, but I knew I wasn't walking away. The trial came in late January. Jeffrey's lawyer argued that Iris was a disruptive tenant who'd violated lease terms and refused reasonable accommodation. Susan countered with documentation of harassment, retaliation, and abuse of landlord power. She presented the pattern of Jeffrey's previous relationships, the lawsuits, the settlements. She called Diane Thornton, the ex-fiancée who'd sued Jeffrey, who testified about experiencing identical treatment. The judge, a woman named Margaret Finley with 30 years on the bench, listened to everything and then said, Mr. Carver, I've reviewed the evidence, and it's clear to me that you're using your position as landlord to punish Ms. Kowalski for ending your personal relationship. This is unconscionable. I'm ruling in favor of the defendant and awarding damages for harassment. Additionally, I'm ordering you to sell your interest in this building. You've demonstrated you cannot be trusted to manage property where a former intimate partner resides. Jeffrey's face went white. Your Honor, this building is worth— I don't care what it's worth. Sell it. You have 90 days. Court adjourned. The victory was so complete I almost couldn't process it. Jeffrey had to sell the building. Iris would have a new landlord, one without a personal vendetta. The harassment would stop. Outside the courthouse, Iris hugged Susan, then me. I can't believe it's over. It's not over yet, Susan warned. He'll appeal. This is Jeffrey Carver. He doesn't lose quietly. She was right. Jeffrey filed an appeal the next week, but something had changed. The local paper picked up the story. Real estate investor ordered to sell building after harassing ex-fiancé. Other news outlets followed. Suddenly, Jeffrey's pattern of behavior was public knowledge. 2 more ex-fiancés came forward with similar stories. A class action lawsuit was filed. Jeffrey's business partners started distancing themselves. His reputation, the thing he'd protected so carefully, was destroyed. The building sold in March. The new owner was a property management company with no connection to Jeffrey. They offered Iris a long-term lease at a fair rate. The harassment stopped. Jeffrey's appeal was denied. On a warm evening in April, nearly 6 months after I'd first been hired to stage her apartment, Iris and I sat on her balcony drinking wine and watching the sunset over the park. Thank you, she said, for everything, for seeing what I couldn't see, for staying when you could have walked away. I couldn't walk away. Why not? I'd been asking myself that question for months. Because you reminded me of why I started this business, not to stage properties for sale, to help people see what their homes could be, what their lives could be. I set down my wine glass. And because somewhere between the staging and the decorating and the fighting and the court dates, I fell in love with you. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I thought it was just me, feeling that way. It's not just you. We kissed there on the balcony, with the sound of the city below us, and the future spreading out uncertain and terrifying and perfect. Later, Iris told me she'd started writing again. Not just graphic design work, but actual writing. Stories about women who learned to fight back, about finding yourself in the middle of losing everything. I told her I'd turned down 3 staging jobs that week because I was tired of helping people prepare to leave their homes. I wanted to help them stay, build, grow. I was pivoting my business toward interior design, toward making spaces where people actually wanted to live their lives. We were both rebuilding, both learning who we were without the scripts we'd been following for so long. 6 months later, I moved into Iris's apartment, not because she needed saving or protection, but because we wanted to build something together. A life, a home, a future that was ours to define. The apartment I'd staged for sale, the one I'd spent 2 weeks making look perfect for strangers, became the place we lived for real, messy and colorful and full of life. Everything a home should be. Sometimes Jeffrey drives past the building. I've seen him, slowing down to look up at Iris's window, but he never stops, never comes in. His empire is crumbling. Investigations into his business practices, more lawsuits, properties being sold to cover legal fees. The man who thought he could control everything lost control of everything. Iris sometimes talks about writing a book, about her experience, about the warning signs she missed, about how leaving felt impossible until it was the only option left. I tell her she should. The story needs to be told. Me? I'm just grateful I was there the day I found that lockbox in the dumpster, the day I realized Iris was in trouble and decided I wasn't walking away. That choice, to care about someone else's crisis instead of staying professional and distant, changed both our lives. She hired me to stage her apartment for buyers. I ended up convincing her not to sell. But more than that, I convinced her she was worth more than what someone else decided she could have. She convinced me that caring about people isn't a professional liability. It's the whole point. We're still in the Pearl District apartment, still rebuilding our lives, still figuring out what it means to choose yourself first and build from there. And that apartment? It's never looked better than it does now, full of the beautiful chaos of 2 people actually living. If you made it this far, hit like, you've earned it. Drop a comment if you've ever had to fight to keep something that was yours. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning of our story.